got
You are live. Okay, so now you can see everybody.
And so good evening, Chairperson Sellers. Whenever you're ready to get the meeting started, I'll just read the Zoom meeting protocol.
Okay, I'm looking to see, we do have quorum. 1, 2, 3,
Yes, I believe we do, Chair.
5, I see 5. All right. Ferris, Dr. Muhammad, we're good to go. I'm gonna say Dr. Muhammad because I just can't do Ferris. That's just not right.
It's not good. This is Ferris Muhammad. Good evening. Before we get started with the Human Relations Commission on the 8th of March, I'm going to read the Zoom meeting protocol. So thank you, Chairperson Sellers. Good evening. My name is Ferris Muhammad, and I will be facilitating the Zoom meeting. Here are a few housekeeping items for this virtual meeting. This meeting is being broadcast and recorded on the City of Lawrence YouTube channel. The public chat function is disabled. All chats will go directly to me. When you are not participating in the meeting, please mute your microphone. When you are participating in the meeting, please keep your video on. When you are not participating in the meeting, please turn your video off. You will still be able to hear the meeting. You can turn the video back on when you are participating. Turning your video off when you are not participating allows the active meeting participants to be seen on the screen. If you have any trouble, please send me a chat. The city reserves the right to mute microphones and/or turn off people's video to minimize distractions. Please remember to state your name every time you speak for the benefit of those listening remotely. And now I'll turn the meeting over to Chairperson Sellers.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March Human Relations Commission meeting. Without further ado, we will go ahead and start our first agenda item. We did have an introduction of new member. We do have a new commissioner, and I don't see Commissioner Emerson here. Scott Ferris, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah,
Ferris Muhammad. Yes, I'm not seeing Commissioner either, and I'm not seeing anyone in the waiting room right now.
Well, if time allows, and Commissioner Emerson does join us, we'll have her do a brief introduction. We do have a new commissioner to our council. That's Kay Emerson. So commissioners, let's ensure that we make her feel welcome. Our next agenda item is reviewing the minutes. Oh, I jumped there. I apologize there. Jump back up to approval of the minutes. Commissioners, if you could take a moment to review the minutes from our January meeting. Let me know if there are any corrections that need to be made. All right, commissioners, hearing none. I do need a motion to approve the January meeting minutes as presented.
I move to approve the January meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. Can I have a second, please?
I second. This is Commissioner Sheldon Sherman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sheldon Sherman. I will now do a roll call vote. Commissioner Logan, Commissioner Falls, Commissioner Barnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Haswood,
Here.
Commissioner Bloxham,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon Sherman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerson is not present. Commissioner Sellers, aye. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The vote is 6-0. Our minutes are now, the minutes from the January meeting are passed as presented. Next up on our agenda item, we have our case reports for January and February as presented by Ms. Afoka.
Good evening, Commissioners. I apologize if there's a delay. I'm working on time stamping each of the agenda items. So there's a delay in the video from my Zoom. So I apologize if there's some sort of feedback or anything, but hopefully this works. My name is Elizabeth Hafoka. I'm the supervising city prosecutor. And the first agenda item report is from the time period from January 11 until February 8. And during that time, we had two pending cases. One was an allegation of housing discrimination and the basis is disability. And the other is a case, the allegation is public accommodations discrimination and the basis is race. That is relatively unchanged until this meeting. However, I will say as of today, the housing discrimination case, there was a determination of probable cause. And that complaint there will be some conciliation meetings coming up in the next month or so. And if conciliation fails, then that case will either go to a public hearing or there will be an election to district court. So I'll keep you updated on that at the next meeting. As far as the inquiries that we received that did not end up in complaints, just starting here at the top, we had a caller who just needed a number for housing and credit counseling. We provided that. We had a caller that wanted to report predatory lending in Jackson County, Missouri. We don't have jurisdiction over Missouri, so we referred that person to HUD. We had someone come in and was interested in filing a complaint alleging discrimination, but then decided not to proceed because she did not want to share any information about her disability. So we explained to her that there is a 1-year statute of limitations on filing a housing discrimination complaint. If she should change her mind, she could recontact us. We had someone call about, it was a landlord-tenant issue. The landlord was threatening eviction because there was a home health worker who had been banned from the property. So we encouraged that person to have a discussion with the landlord about why the home health care worker had been banned. Someone called, wanted to report that their neighbors had been smoking and being loud. We referred them to the police department and housing credit counseling. We received an online intake and an in-person meeting that we had with an individual who was having issues with her landlord and an emotional support animal, but we determined after getting more information about that situation that there may be a conflict of interest because there was an alleged dog bite of the maintenance man and then an allegation of theft on the part of the maintenance man. So we sort of put that on hold and to give her information about the state agency, the Kansas Human Rights Commission, and the federal agency HUD that she could file a housing discrimination complaint with. We had someone file an online intake form that had several allegations that appeared to be landlord-tenant issues with parking and maybe items taken from her purse and then a notice of eviction. We did try to call that person back multiple times, but were unable to leave a message and did not hear back from that person. We had a few people call about status of a job application and benefits. They were referred to the Human Resources Department. And then we had one of those robocalls for Amazon, and we just determined that was spam and did not take that call. If you jump over to the March, the other agenda item report, I kind of repeated part of it, so I apologize. But if you go to page 2, and about halfway down is where the new list of inquiries starts. And this was from February to March. We had a caller reach out to us because he was having a dispute with his landlord over utilities. Was not discrimination, just landlord-tenant, so we referred them to housing and credit counseling. We had someone call in that wanted to file a complaint against their neighbor for allowing the dog to defecate in her yard. So we referred that person to animal control. We had a caller reach out to us because having issues with their landlord about not fixing broken doors and plumbing that wasn't working. We referred them to housing and credit counseling and also gave them the number to planning and development services for the city. We had someone reach out to us because this individual refused to sign a lease renewal earlier in the year, but then wanted to sign it later, but the unit had already been rented to someone else. So we informed them that that was a landlord-tenant issue, not a discrimination issue. Someone needed to get in touch with human resources. They were referred. We had an individual reach out to us, wanted to file a complaint about a hunting dog cage was in his yard, and someone had called the city to complain about it. Unfortunately, we couldn't really have a productive conversation with that individual and had to hang up. We had someone wanting to file a discrimination complaint, but their allegation involved events that happened in Wellsville, Kansas. So we explained we didn't have jurisdiction outside of the city and referred them to HUD. We had someone call and wanted to file a complaint against a local apartment complex here for refusing to rent. We talked with her for a while and she explained that she would reach out to us after she was not so tired. We received an email from someone who wanted to report that an employee who said they had a blood clot has been walking around and doing things over the weekend. We forwarded that to Human Resources. We had a caller the time that the Arctic blast had hit the city, left a message wanting to file a complaint because the power was out of his home and his wife and children were cold. Called and left a message with him, but did not hear back. Someone called about landlord-tenant issues. They were referred to housing and credit counseling. A caller who had called previously called back, wanted to file a complaint, but couldn't do so because of some fears that she had about corporate fraud. We talked to her about alternatives to our complaint process. We had someone call in about landlord-tenant issues with plumbing and mildew. We referred them to housing and credit counseling. We had a caller report that their pipe had burst. Water's been pouring in their unit or their dwelling for several days. They couldn't reach their landlords. We referred them to housing and credit counseling. We had an individual come into our office and requested assistance filing employment discrimination complaint, but his employer is in Topeka. So we gave him information about the state agency, the Kansas Human Rights Center, the federal EEOC, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. We had someone call and was upset because the local police department would not give him the key to an apartment here in Lawrence, and so he wanted to talk about how he changed his mind, his position on defunding the police. We just explained we couldn't really assist him with that. We had someone call because they wanted to file an application for disability with HUD. We referred them to HUD. We had a caller who previously had called twice, reach out to us again and wanted to file a complaint against Google for some what she believed was censorship and also the local hospital for some psychiatric issues. She decided that she wanted to pursue another agency for those issues, particularly the Google issue, and that she would reach out to us when she was ready to file a local complaint. We just informed her of the 1-year statute of limitations. Someone called wanting to verify employment. They were referred to Human Resources. We had someone call and leave a message that he wants to sell his house to the people that he rents to, and he wanted to make sure that was okay with the city. We tried to call him back, but were unable to leave a message. We had someone email about requesting more information about a hit and run accident that occurred here in the city. And we just responded that we needed some more information about that incident in order to even look for additional information. We had someone call and they believed that they were being discriminated against by the landlord in trying to evict them because she'd been reporting burglary reports to the police, and we referred them to HUD based on those police reports could have been sent to us in the potential for conflict of interest. There's a robocall about Google not being up to date. We hung up. A man called and really was trying to give information about wanting to file a complaint against the Kansas Department of Corrections. And then he talked about homelessness and sort of the issues he was having with that and the FBI. And he hung up at some point, but before that did say that he had a case manager from Barnett that was trying to assist him. We had a caller who wanted to file a complaint about a rooster being in the city limits, so we referred them to animal control. And then another caller was given a 3-day notice to quit or leave the premises, and wanted some assistance with issues she was having with her landlord, so we referred her to housing and credit counseling. So those were the contacts that we received since our last meeting. One thing that I did not include that I meant to include, and I apologize, is that I'm giving a Zoom presentation this Thursday. That is sort of in partnership with Housing and Credit Counseling, and it's just an overview on our Human Relations Office and the complaint process, and to spread some information in the community about how people can get in touch with us and what happens after they file a complaint. So that's the case report. Does anyone have any questions?
This is Commissioner Barnett. I have a question. So is this the first time that you've received a conflict of interest complaint? And then I see that we have 2. Or does that happen often?
It's not the first time. We have received cases that involve the conflict of interest, and we refer those to other agencies.
Okay, and so it's just the conflict of interest that triggers you to refer it to the federal or state agencies, just because there's no one else to handle it?
Right, because Lauren Summers and I are the investigators, and we're also the prosecutors for the city. So if there's a potential that we could be prosecuting a case, or we are prosecuting a case that involves the same individual, then we cannot do an investigation that involves that individual. That would be a conflict and also the appearance.
Thank you. What do other cities do? Do other cities I mean, it depends on the city size, I know, because there are some big metro cities that their human relations division is like completely paid staff. But do other cities have this problem where they have a prosecutor who is also their human relations commission investigator or manager, and they have conflicts? Because I thought that was kind of like what we were talking about last time, that's what we're here for, is if there's a conflict, then, we can assist in the investigation. And although I understand perhaps if that were to happen, you all would still be overseeing or managing the investigation, or it still involves the city. But I'm just curious what other cities do, and if this is, what they do, then that's cool. I just wondered.
I'm not aware of any other cities who have the prosecuting attorneys doing the human relations investigations. There may be some out there. I'm not aware of any. I believe Salina, Kansas has a human relations office and is a FAP agency like we are with HUD. I don't believe that it's the prosecutors that do the investigations. I don't know of other FAP agencies in our state.
This is Commissioner Barnett. Thank you. Again, we've talked about this before, but I just wonder at some point if we could get the commission's thoughts on revisiting the idea of the commissioners doing or assisting with some of the investigations of these complaints. Just maybe we could put it on the agenda for next time if we have time to discuss the commission's feelings about having that as a duty, and if it's something that we all feel we have the capacity to do, and if we all agree that it's appropriate and within our scope.
This is Commissioner Sellers. Commissioner Barnett, we can definitely put that on the agenda for our next meeting. I know that I had some discussions in regards to that, and we may need to look at from a divide and conquer standpoint on this. I think there's some opportunities here to really tap into some of the content expert of our commissioners to do some of this work as a subgroup component. And so again, I echo your sentiments as far as us revisiting this and maybe utilizing some of our commissioners to do some subgroup work similar to what we tried to do with the kiosk project. Are there any other commissioners that have any questions regarding the report from Ms. Afoka?
This is Commissioner Blacksam. I have a question, and this is I really just want clarifying. We have lots of communities where businesses are owned in other cities. So my question is, if the discrimination happened while it is in Lawrence, Kansas, is it still outside of our jurisdiction?
If the discriminatory act is alleged to have occurred within the city limits, then we could accept that. We would have jurisdiction.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Sellers. Real quick, Ms. Afoka, as far as the referrals that are made to HCCI, is there anyone in your office that tracks whether or not those referrals are actually followed through, or do you have any mechanism like that, or is it just a matter of you referring it and it's just noted that it was referred to, that you referred those individuals to HCCI?
We just note that we referred them, and we make sure that they have the contact information to get a hold of Housing and Credit Counseling. We don't follow up with Housing and Credit Counseling to see if that person reached out to them or if they were able to get assistance.
This is Commissioner Blacksam. Just to follow up to that, say perhaps in the instances where we know that there is a clear conflict of interest, I know that sometimes HUD will take intakes and send them on to our county for investigation. Is it possible in those cases where there may be discrimination but a conflict of interest, does the communication have to stop right then, or is it possible that we could do an intake on their behalf so that there is follow-up? I just want clarification, is when you know that there's conflict of interest, is that where your communication has to end?
So we have gotten complaints assigned to us from HUD, and we have in those situations, HUD already did the intake and then figured out that the discriminatory act occurred in Lawrence, and because we have that FAP partnership with HUD, they notify us that this is a case that you're going to be investigating. And then we also have people who reach out to us and come and will do an intake or an online intake. And in each of those situations, when we first get that information, we do a conflicts check. And we look at, do we have pending cases with this person? Are they actively on probation? What is the status with the prosecutor's office, with the municipal court? Are they on warrant status? Something like that. Because we cannot do an investigation of someone that we're prosecuting, because we can't be a neutral investigator and also prosecuting them in municipal court. So in those situations, when we have the case referred to us from HUD, then we refer it back to them and just explain there's a conflict of interest, we're referring this case back to you. In this situation where they don't come from HUD, they contact us directly, then we notify them the individual that's making the complaint. We cannot take your complaint here here's the contact information for the Kansas Human Rights Commission and also for HUD, or if it's employment EEOC, and this is, this is where you can go to file the complaint, and that's what we do. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you so much.
All right, commissioners, are there any other comments or questions for Ms. Afoka? All right, hearing none. Thank you again, Ms. Afoka, for that report, and we do appreciate the additional context provided in regards to conflict of interest. I think that was a teachable moment for a lot of our commissioners this evening, including myself. Next on the agenda, we have our staff update in regards to the 12-point plan task. I do believe is that you, Scott?
Yes, I have that one.
Uh,
My name is Scott Wagner. I'm an analyst in the city attorney's office. Tonight's report is just kind of a follow-up from the items we've been discussing really since June of last year when we started meeting on a monthly basis. And also kind of an update for a couple of our new commissioners. So just kind of a brief review of some of the things this commission has looked at. During our June 11th, 2020 special meeting of this commission, we reviewed a statement from Mayor Ananda that she had expressed at the June 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Lawrence City Commission. And this was in the kind of immediate aftermath of the George Floyd incident. And she laid out several tasks for the Human Relations Commission and other boards and the City Commission as a whole. And at the June 11th, 2020 meeting of the Human Relations Commission, Assistant City Manager Casey Toomey provided some background on the city's participation in GARE, which was one of the things that Mayor Ananda wanted this commission to look at. And GARE stands for the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. And Casey Toomey kind of reviewed that racial equity toolkit with this body. And just as a side note, Faris Muhammad, I know to staff in the last week or so, has sent out information about a virtual GARE conference that's available coming up in May. So if you have questions about that virtual conference, please get in touch with Faris on that. Continuing, the City Commission kind of revisited these items that the mayor had laid out on their June 16th, 2020 meeting, and they approved the 12-point plan related to issues of equity, community policing, criminal justice, homelessness, mental health, and public safety. And this included a charge to the Human Relations Commission, but it did not include a task to review city ordinances. This task was assigned to city staff. One of the items, though, that was assigned to the Human Relations Commission was to meet with the Community Police Review Board. I believe Vice Chair Barnett did meet with the chair of the CPRB last summer, but there's been no formal meeting of those two boards yet. That board has really been busy kind of reassessing their, if you follow the news, accounts of their work, reassessing kind of their structure, their goals, and their authority, and have been really focused on that really since last summer. But I would update you that that board does meet this week on March 11th, and you may want to tune in for that. If you don't get enough board and commission meetings, you're certainly welcome to either watch that on the city's YouTube channel or sign in and participate via Zoom. A couple of items of interest from that meeting is they're going to discuss the initial results of some Lawrence Listens data, and they formed a community engagement committee, and they're going to discuss the goals for that committee. So just a couple items of interest from that board. One of the tasks, though, in terms of community engagement that this commission did take up, that Chair Sellers put forward, was a community kiosk project. And that initial data was completed at the end of December. And a report is expected in the next, probably by the next meeting on that project. And once approved, that data will be forwarded to the Lawrence City Commission. And finally, at the December 14th meeting, we as a commission kind of reviewed the possible task of reviewing city ordinances. And again, we provided that update that Citygate Associates had been contracted to conduct really a rather comprehensive review of the Lawrence Police Department. And one of their tasks was identifying ordinances that may need revision or amending. And so this commission kind of put off any further efforts on that aspect until completion of the Citygate report. And then just a couple weeks ago, during the January 19th meeting of the Lawrence City Commission, staff reported that the Citygate Associate team had begun the community engagement process for their project beginning in February, and that a website was going to go live to start the community engagement process as part of their police review project. That website is live. I know they've had a couple meetings. I believe there was a story in today's Journal World about some of the initial outreach efforts by Citygate Associates. So that's just kind of a brief overview of some of the tasks we've worked on since we began meeting monthly back in June of last year. And I would be happy to answer any questions on that.
Thank you, Scott. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Scott in regards to this evening's report on the 12-point plan? So I did have a question. I was gonna look into, I know that I was reviewing the
I had forwarded you, sorry to interrupt, information about the Douglas County Community Health Plan. One of the things in my mind as I was reviewing tonight's report, commissioners, is that there's a lot of different, I would say, moving parts and pieces to the work of different boards in this community, to the City Commission, to Douglas County, to the District Attorney's Office, on a lot of the things that we've been talking about. And so, it's kind of a little bit challenging, I would say, to keep up on everything because this community is really engaged on a lot of different fronts. And one of those items is the Community Health Plan. And at the March 3rd Douglas County Commission agenda, they had an update on the Community Health Plan that I had forwarded to Chairperson Sellers. And it included a couple things that this commission might be interested in, including addressing issues relating to the criminalization of poverty, mental health issues. And that plan was also calling for the creation of a countywide commission on racial equity and diversity. So that's just kind of a quick update on that.
Yeah, so if there's any commissioners that would like Scott to send it, I know I told Scott I think it would be if he could get that sent out to everyone. I did take some time to review it and came across that there's a lot of crosswalking and just in between the different boards and commissions. And I know oftentimes with us looking at the work that we do from the lens of the city and knowing that we have this countywide document, I use this document to reference a couple of pieces and some goals that I was trying to draft in regards to the work for the Human Relations Commission. And so, yeah, Scott, if you could get that forwarded out to everyone, I would greatly appreciate it. And again, it's just a great reference document. One, to see if there's opportunities. I know that we do have some commissioners that have content expert knowledge in other areas that could be served on a countywide level, but also again, it's a great document to help formulate ideas for opportunities and processes that we can use within our own commission. So again, any commissioners, any questions in regards to Scott's report in regards to the update on the 12-point plan. Scott, is there going to be in regards to this, is there going to be some type of dashboard or update? Is this 12-point dashboard, is it typically updated every meeting, every commissioner meeting, or is there like a timeline of how things are updated?
Yeah, this is Scott Wagner, analyst. That's a good question. I will probably check in with Brandon McGuire on that. He's kind of been the point person for the city. He's one of the other assistant city managers in terms of the 12-point plan and reporting back to the city commission on that, unless Ferris has better insight as to the status of
Those aspects.
I don't.
I see a head shake. This is Commissioner Sellers. I see a head shake from Dr. Muhammad. So again, commissioners, look for that report from Scott sometime within the next day or so. And again, just another great resource for our body to use and reference for future work. So thank you, Scott. All right, our next agenda item, commissioners, is our continued discussion of goals from 2021. Again, at our January meeting, which was 2 months ago, but it seems like it was maybe 5. We did start some initial dialogue in regards to the city's document, in regards with the strategic plan, and then how that would align for goals for our particular commission. I know that Dr. Muhammad and Casey shared kind of a crosswalk tool that I had created, not to be used or for us to hamstring our thought process in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I just use it as a helpful tool to align the two pieces that we could use to help guide goals and objectives. And I'm going to stop. Ferris, could you kind of revise, kind of give us an update to that, and give us your thoughts on next steps, and then we can possibly go over any goals that commissioners have come up with. I don't want to belabor this too much. I know that it's been a couple of weeks since we've asked commissioners to do a little homework and brainstorm any goals or opportunities. So once Dr. Muhammad is finished, if there's any commissioners that want to add to the discussion, we'll do that, and then choose guide our pathway accordingly. So, Dr. Muhammad.
Yes, Ferris Muhammad, Director of Equity and Inclusion. And I do have the document that Chairperson Sellers did create to help crosswalk and cover some of the bases for this commission to be in alignment with or provide better information to help be instrumental to the city's progression on these strategic plans and these key performance indicators. So if I can try to share my screen here in a minute, just in case you all don't have that document in front of you, I'll try to share what I do have pulled up and for the public viewing audience. So I think, let me see if I can drag this over here. Are you all able to see that document? Okay, let me switch my view.
Yes, we can see. Oh, I can see it, Ferris.
Okay. And if I need to enlarge it, please let me know. I can enlarge the document, and I can cover the gist of it, or if Chairperson Sellers, if you want to walk through it, please have at it.
If you want to start, and then I'll pick up with you there. So I need to grab a quick drink of water real quick. I apologize.
Yeah, so I'll cover the highlights of this right here. So this is the city strategic planning framework. And if I can enlarge this to make sure that everyone else can see it, because I can barely see it from where I'm sitting. 1 second. So across the top here, we have our from the strategic plan, you have your outcomes. Across all the outcomes are the unmistakable identity, strong welcoming neighborhoods, so safe and secure, prosperity and economic security, and then we have infrastructure, asset management, and connectivity. And these are some of the key outcome areas. And then also, I think to the side over here, we have our commitment areas. And so one way, I guess, that it's been explained how we can think about these different things is for the outcomes, is kind of the what, and the commitment areas are sort of the how. So how do we accomplish the outcome areas, and how do we make sure that from a commitment side that we're committed to infusing these priorities that are the commitment areas in our day-to-day work to make sure we reach these specific outcomes that are identified at the top up here going across. And so just to scroll down for the different commitment areas, we have the community engagement piece, and there's some description beneath here. And all this information is also available on the city's website, so you can obtain this document, or I can send this back out to commissioners or whoever may need the document. But in the interest of time, I'm not going to read it all, but just to highlight. So this is the community engagement piece right here as far as the commitment area. The second, and there's not in any specific order as far as how they are ranked or anything like that. It's just kind of the list of where it goes. And so also we have efficient and effective processes. And then down here as a third one, we do have equity and inclusion. Then we also have sound fiscal stewardship and engaged and empowered teams. And then lastly, we have environmental sustainability. So it's basically, when we think in terms of our outcomes, we want to make sure that we're committed to enhancing these several areas that's in the left pane right here. And so that's kind of the overview, high-level overview of the city strategic plan that encompasses both our outcomes as well as our commitment areas. And each one of these areas have specific city employees and some community members engaged to try to make sure that the city is being centered and the work that's being done in these key areas. So there's groups that are assembled with a champion person. For myself, I'm the champion of the equity and inclusion commitment area that we just discussed. So with that being said, I'll pause right there and willing to take any questions anyone may have.
This is Commissioner Sellers. Thank you, Ferris. So again, commissioners, the idea of the crosswalk, just to give it to you from my perspective, was I was using it as a way to guide the what and the how, so the outcomes to the commitments. And so I know one of the examples when I came on as a commissioner that we talked about early in the late summer, early fall, were revisions that needed to be made to the Human Relations webpage in relationship to the city's website. And so, and now this is based on, in my thinking, you know, I had charted that under unmistakable identity and community engagement. And so the what is the Human Relations website, and the how it was our commitment to, you know, redesigning and formatting it in a way that was a more user-friendly approach, that had more robust guided information, easier way to pinpoint how to file a complaint online, a landing page for content information and things of that nature. And so using that as an example of how I use the crosswalk to help myself formulate ideas, formulate different outcomes from the lens of the human relations commissioner, and then what those commitments are, how we could execute that particular task. And so, again, that's how I use the crosswalk. In no way did I want commissioners to feel like they had to use it this way, but I wanted to provide it to everyone to give them at least some type of guide to help us at least generate at least ideas for discussion as we move forward, utilizing the city strategic framework to help us identify goals and objectives for this commission. So I'm going to stop talking for a little while to give other commissioners the opportunity, if there's any goals or objectives or just ideas that you had in regards to the strategic planning framework in relations to the work that we are tasked to do with the Human Relations Commission. I'd like to hear from everyone as far as what they've been doing with this, or at least ideas that you've had since the last time we spoke and discussed this topic. So,
This is Commissioner Barnett. I'll jump in. This is the first time that I've used a tool like this on, a big project, and I really appreciated it. Commissioner Sellers, I put working on the website and complaint forms under infrastructure, asset management, and connectivity. And then I put that for the how is the efficient and effective processes. But so I have my crosswalk here with all my ideas and stuff. And I just was wondering if maybe to make our time as effective as possible together, if we could all kind of work on filling this out to the best of our ability, and then maybe all give it to Dr. Muhammad or Scott, and then get it back to all the commissioners in a big file, and then we can kind of see where we have similar goals and similar thinking for the commission for 2021. And then that way we're not sitting here, in the evenings having these conversations about what our goals should be, and we can really just drill down, identify what the similarities in our goals and the things that we think are achievable for 2021, the things that we all believe are in line with the strategic planning framework, and then use that as a jumping off point for our next meeting to start really planning for what we're going to do. I wonder if that's a good way to go. Are there any thoughts on that?
Commissioner Barnett, this is Commissioner Sellers. I couldn't agree with you more, and I think if this is a great way to help other commissioners kind of get an idea of what others are thinking, then I'm on board with it. I know you have done some work on it, and I've done some work, and I know there are others who have added a piece or two there. And so maybe if we can get all of our thoughts into one document to use it as a reference point, and then other commissioners can build off of it and provide input from that capacity. Then we can circle back again with the entire document and have real-time discussion, not once everyone's kind of seen what different input has been provided in the document.
This is Commissioner Sheldon Sherman. I agree with both of you. I was wondering, similar to your point, Commissioner Barnett, if we could get a fillable version of this that we could use. I'm not technologically savvy, but if we could fill it in and then, like you said, get everything put together, and then as you suggested, kind of prioritize where we have commonalities, and then maybe even have that just as a master document to come back to every year to say these were things that we didn't prioritize as something we could get done in 2021, but these are things that we might be able to do in 2022, and just have that as kind of a working document that we move forward through the years.
Yes, this is Commissioner Sellers, and I echo your sentiments, Commissioner Sheldon Sherman, and I think we have the opportunity to make this a reference document for future work. And so I do have this in a Word format, and so I can get this over to Dr. Muhammad to share as well, and so that we can get this out to everyone. As we mentioned in the January meeting, I don't want commissioners to feel like this is a game of blackout bingo and that I'm wanting everyone to come up with something in every capacity. I don't think of it that way. Again, this was just a tool that I use to help my brain connect the commitments to the outcomes. And so go about it in any way, form that you feel comfortable with, and fill in the areas where you feel like where the most focus is. I know there's different pieces in here I've tried to add from conversations that we've had since I've joined the commission in regards to the roles and responsibility of our liaison, to our responsibility in regards to intakes, reviewing of different chapter ordinances and things of that nature. So Again, we'll get this, I will get this sent over to Ferris. Any commissioners who have notes that they would like to add to it. Dr. Muhammad, I'll work with you to figure out a COMA compliant method of getting that information sent out and shared. So commissioners, do we have any questions in regards to the document or discussions on goals and expectations for the Human Relations Commission? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is clarification of the calendar for 2021. And I would say I would discuss that, but I think I need clarification as well. I know we initially discussed our timeline of meetings, and I know January, when we were planning for our February meeting, was a little bit tough. So, Dr. Muhammad, Scott, could you provide some additional context in regards to this last bullet point?
Hey, Ferris Muhammad, this is Director of Equity and Inclusion. So for the last bullet point related to clarify calendar, I know that I believe at the last commission meeting there was some discussion surrounding how frequently the commission should meet to be able to tackle the task that you all choose to outline for your goals this year. So I believe, I'm not sure where exactly you all had landed without having the minutes in front of me right now. But I believe that you all were having discussions on entertaining the idea of meeting monthly and holding this meeting time because it was instrumental or in compliance with the other kind of meetings that typically happen in this room as far as the just after the Transit Commission meeting. So I believe that you all had discussions on kind of meeting monthly until you all was able to gather or gain a certain type of momentum to accomplish the goals that you all wanted to flesh out this year. But I believe you all were still in the process of having some further dialogue surrounding that. That's my recollection without the minutes in front of me.
This is Commissioner Sellers. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Again, yes, I know we initially revisited the idea of going quarterly, but knowing that some of the trends with the other boards and commissions were going to monthly meetings, knowing that within the purview of the commission, if at a time that we didn't need to meet monthly, we could still utilize that meeting time for any type of subgroup meetings or work of any subgroups that may come about as we address different tasks that come to the attention of the commission. So I know what I do remember is the process that we went to in figuring out our time, space, and available. And so I would just want to make sure that this meeting time, looking at the calendar for at least the next 6 months, does the second Monday at 6 p.m. Is that time on the calendar with the city currently open and available to us?
So, Ferris Muhammad, Director of Equity and Inclusion. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe based on the meeting that we had last commission meeting, I believe Assistant Senator Casey Toomey did look and see that this was a time that was able or available for you all for the rest of the year. That's to the best of my recollection, I believe that was the case.
This is Commissioner Sellers. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. So, commissioners, I'd like to hear from everyone. I think as we move forward and we continue to flesh out our goals and objectives, it would be advantageous for us to maintain that monthly meeting schedule. Simply because I know we've lost some opportunity with our February meeting, and knowing as meetings change and people's availability change and us being able to maintain quorum, for us to hamstring ourselves of depending on those quarterly meetings, we may lose valuable time for us to continue to get the work and build that momentum that we need to address some of the task at hand. So again, if no one is in objection to it, I'd like for us to keep our meetings monthly with that second Monday at 6 p.m. Are there any objections to that? Okay, seeing or hearing none, it sounds like we will maintain this schedule until otherwise noted, but we will meet on the second Monday at 6. Thank you, commissioners. Next on the agenda, we have public comment. I didn't see any correspondences come through. Dr. Muhammad or Scott, is that still the case?
Ferris Muhammad, Director of Equity and Inclusion. Yes, I didn't receive any public comments come in electronically at all.
All right. Well, commissioners, look like we have met the end of our meeting. And I would say, other than Commissioner Stevens joining us late, I thought this was going to be an International Women's Meeting edition of the Human Relations Commission, but we do appreciate having your support of us women on this commission.
This is Commissioner Stevens, always and forever.
All right. Well, guys, I will say this as my second or third meeting as chair. I think this is the first time since I've joined this commission that we have had a meeting under the hour. And so I will yield my time and give you back your evening. Thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you, Scott, to our crew and commissioners. Thank you very much. I adjourn this meeting at 6:59 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.